channel, My Little Pony Feminism is Magic. I'm Tex.
And I'm Seth, although I post online occasionally as Ginger Grackle, so.
So we're gonna just jump right in. Why is feminism important? I don't know if I'm off a code. So XKCD, I'm sure most of you know, has a comic that shows a good example. Wow, you suck at math. Wow, girls suck at math. When the girl does it. As a female engineer, I have felt this many times. Fat, Ugly, or Slutty is a website where women can post basically random anon messages that they get that people will say normally they're fat, ugly, or slutty, and just people, just like general harassment, and there's so many. And then they even have like different categories like death threats. There's so much stuff on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of really ugly stuff on there.
And then a Facebook post that I found that says, I don't know, it's kind of small. Why don't girls like to be raped? Don't they like to be dominated in bed? Don't they love sex? Or is this because of male protection? And the guy has a Fluttershy tattoo as his profile, and it's really sad to see that in the fandom. Along with an article from the Daily Dot that a female complained to the staff of a certain con, I don't remember which, about rape jokes during panels, and they said, oh, it's just part of the experience, which is terrible. It creates an unsafe environment for not only sexual harassment survivors, but also just women in general. And they also yell inappropriate things towards an underage voice actress. And they said they can't do anything, which just, it doesn't show any support from the higher up, which people really need to make conventions a safe space.
Going along with the fat, ugly, or slutty thing, I read recently about a study that was done where they used pre-recorded snippets of voice chat and played them while people were playing Halo 3, and female voice chat audio that was played was about 3 times as likely to get harassment back in response. And it was often gendered harassment, so that sort of fat, ugly, or slutty type of response, which sort of illustrates the problem that can arise in these circles.
Like, I played Team Fortress 2 for a couple years, like right when it came out. About after, like 2 years after playing it, I completely stopped playing it because of how much harassment I got. And I wouldn't use mics anymore and stuff like that. So it's just like, it's a problem in the gaming community and a lot of communities.
I have a few friends who they refuse to use voice chatting games because they don't want to reveal their gender and open themselves up for that. So.
Yeah, I mostly play male characters on MMOs now.
Oh, that was what I was just going to ask. Do you play often more as male characters?
Yeah.
Because of the fear of being socially ostracized?
Yeah, I played Final Fantasy 11, a online MMO, for about 7 or 8 years. And I eventually moved my character from a Mithra, which was a female cat girl, to a Galco, which is this big, bulky dude with a tail. No one ever believed me when I did say I was a girl, so it was perfect. Guild Wars 2, I have 3 out of my 5 characters are men. Yeah. So first of all, what is feminism? The theory, or straight from Webster, the theory of political, economic, and social equality of both sexes. Organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. This is just the plain, straight up.
Yeah, very, very general.
Yeah. So we thought it might be good for people who are new to feminism, or like terms that kind of get thrown around in feminist talk. So here's some like pretty good terms.
So the first one, privilege is one that gets thrown around a bit. It's sometimes sort of used in a sort of accusatory fashion. It can put people on the defensive. So it can be tricky to work with. But just this sort of idea that being born a certain way, having certain outward characteristics, you get these social advantages that you haven't done anything for. You just get them automatically. A sort of, maybe a little bit trivial, but a good sort of safe example I like to use is pockets. So if you're a guy, you can count on most of your pants having pockets, and that when you see a pair of pants that have pockets on them or appear to have pockets on them, that those will be real pockets and not fake pockets put on to trick you. Which I understand is quite a pet peeve.
Okay, so victim blaming. Victims of a crime or any negative treatment, and they're blamed for that treatment. So like, say on the OSU campus, there was those muggings that like a bunch of them happened like around the same time. People were blaming some of the victims if they were drunk. That would be an example of victim blaming, but usually a lot of people use that in terms to like rape. The girl was dressed a certain way, etc.
And that brings us into rape culture, which is the sort of normalization of that kind of occurrence, that kind of attitude. The assumption that women are sort of really sexualized, and so there's always this sort of idea that, part of it is this idea that it's partially their fault, also this idea that this sort of ignorance of what constitutes rape. You get a lot of people who don't quite understand what it is, and going along with victim blaming, an emphasis on not getting raped instead of how you can not rape people.
Sorry. And then internalized sexism is when stereotypes about women or towards women are enacted or felt by women themselves.
But internalized sexism wasn't just women specific.
Was it? I always heard that it was.
It's often used to explain, why you will find women who agree with certain sexist ideas, because they've internalized that sense.
Well,
Some of those ideas.
But
yeah. I mean,
So I'm saying sexism.
it's pretty obvious that with men who have those attitudes that it's internalized.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, it can go both. Sorry. I normally see it in, or discuss that way.
It's used more commonly to refer to women who hold sexist ideas.
Right, sorry. And yeah, so it just like becomes like.
I promise this entire presentation isn't this heavy on the subject matter.
Yeah. I just kind of like, let's just kind of like get that, and then the fun stuff. No, not all feminist ideologies are the same. I know tons of things that I read online from other feminists that I totally do not agree with. Every feminist is different. So, I mean, yeah, so the information even that you're getting from me is my own and his own, and so yeah. This is, the main focus is so this is sort of letting you know what my biases are, or what I concentrate on, so you know what kind of feminism I sort of look at. So fighting for equal salaries and sexism in the workplace, safer environments in male-dominated fields and hobbies, so like geek spaces, STEM fields, or science, technology, engineering, mathematics, education to like the people that I know that being feminine is not a weak or bad trait for men.
And that's a big one for me, definitely.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I know. I'm sure you could probably talk to a lot of bromies at the convention and hear stories about being bullied, about being sort of ostracized for not being masculine enough, and that's really a case of sort of as we would say, patriarchy backfiring on men, hitting us back in the face because it's not okay to be feminine in that sort of situation. And I'll just add another one to this list. I mean, as far as another thing, I think more equal sharing of child rearing is a big thing that feminism has to offer, because I mean, it's hard enough to find work in this country where you can get paid maternity leave, to be able to afford to take time off, much less paid paternity leave so that there can be some of that equal sharing of child rearing, of taking care of children, as opposed to the sort of traditional thing of pushing it all off on women.
Awareness of rape culture and slut shaming. And again, feminism is a broad field with many different theories. Not all feminists are the same. So I want to start with character stereotypes that certain shows use. So there's the Smurfette principle, which means there's one lady among all the guys. So like the Smurfs and Smurfette. That obviously causes a problem. Normally I see this in male sort of shows, like superhero shows. I see a lot.
You watch Transformers, there's the occasional female Autobot, just to mix things up a little bit. Oftentimes with the Smurfette principle, it's also, there's one girl in the cast and her defining trait is that she's a girl. Like, that's all the personality the writers care to give her, because that's all they care to give her. They're too lazy to, go more in depth than that. And oftentimes that mixes with the sort of super femme stereotype, which is where, they're like, we need to have a girl character, but we don't want anything to be wrong with her, because people might complain, because if there's one girl character and there's something wrong with her, it might look like we're saying something bad about women, so we'll make her perfect, which completely backfires because everybody hates the perfect characters. Perfect characters are flat, they're not believable, they're annoying, and oftentimes the writers don't do much with them because it's hard to write about perfect characters. And so they're just sort of there pissing everybody off.
Also, sometimes when there is the Smurfette in the show, even if they do sort of have some development, normally it's for a love arc, and that's about it. So.
Or they're just implying
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Who knows what the Bechdel test is? If you want to shout it out, go for it.
Okay. If there are, say, you have enough women in the movie or show or episode or what have you to that they can have a conversation, they tend to talk about men. And the Bechdel test is, are there two, it's very simple, are there two women in whatever it is that have a conversation that isn't about men?
Sadly, Avengers does not do that. And then, normally women in the show is highly sexualized, passive, seen as overly emotional or very submissive. And often, if there's a man with feminine traits, it's normally that needs to be fixed, or like it's for humor,
Or it could be seen as evil, being one of the great antagonists.
A lot of Disney villains, like Jafar, always have this little bit of like effeminate, personality traits to make them more creepy or something. So yeah, it's another one of those areas where it sort of backfires and creates problems all around.
the show almost never, I mean, also because there's like all this, which also is kind of a problem, but it never focuses on winning over men, really, for both the main six and the CMC, other than like when Rarity, like what's Blue Blood or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But that's like a sixth of the episode, maybe, like, barely.
He gets tired of it, too.
Yeah, and then she realizes that he sucks, so she's like, whatever, I'm gonna be independent.
You know, she has a well-defined personality aside from that, so it's not even all of that big of a deal because her character doesn't exist to be in love with somebody.
Right. Kind of like the idea of people that are
Right, yeah.
Right. Yeah, because Blue Blood was basically, Blue Blood was basically his point only in the show was to be won over. So it's kind of opposite there. There's mostly women in power, Princess's mayor. I heard originally that she actually wanted it to be like queens, but so that like they were even more powerful, but they said that queen sounds too old or like evil sometimes, so they wanted it princesses. So that's interesting. And again, like the characters are well written, like they have flaws. Like, I mean, Applejack is like super dependable, but really stubborn. And, like Rarity is like super creative, but sometimes a little self-centered. They're not perfect, annoying characters. They're rounded, like, actually people.
Look, I mean, they're rounded, they're going on to the next one, they change and develop over time, which, you know, that's how you avoid having a character just be a stereotype, is by giving them depth and allowing them to change, and so you're not just sort of representing one thing. And because you have, you know, several female characters around in varying positions, that also sort of keeps it from being like, okay, this one character is what women are like, you know, that sort of thing. And especially you'll see in a lot of these shows, there'll just be like one or two women, you know, in other shows, there'll just be one or two women on the cast, and so they become the emblem of being women, and they won't have powerful positions, either, you know, in terms of politically or in terms of importance to the story, and so they're just kind of there.
So like, you walk down into a girl's toy aisle, pink.
Yeah.
Boys aisle, all the colors. So yeah, a lot of girl shows involve products aimed towards young females seem to overcompensate this sort of feminine stereotype that all girls like pink, and even in shows sometimes their whole cast will be like super girly, and it's a harmful stereotype, especially for young girls who are watching. Gender expression. Okay, so one of my favorite things about MLP, is that there shows many different ways of what it means to be a girl. And how you present yourself would be like your gender expression. It's sort of like a spectrum. So on one side you have feminine, on one side you have masculine. And you can sort of just go in between. So I want some audience participation here. So for example, I'll do Rarity, I guess. Yeah. So like, to me, Rarity is pretty far on the feminine side. So first we'll do 1 and 6. So if anybody wants to come up. Yeah, come on up. Put someone on there. Right, yeah, and if anybody in the crowd wants to also, yeah, if you come up, you can take a sticker. Yeah. If people come up and take a sticker. Yeah, I only have a few though, so.
tricky when you get down to issues.
Yeah. Does anybody have any disagreements with, want to move any of them?
So just
I think Dash and Applejack should be a little more
Right, I mean, you don't have a whole lot
I
of
think they're
really
more on the
extreme,
masculine
you know,
spectrum.
a lot sort of extreme edge.
I think
Yeah.
Applejack's more feminine than masculine, because she talks about what the true meaning of being a sister and a friend and stuff like that is, and that, I mean, she's masculine in the fact that she likes to do stuff on her own, but she's more feminine as in feelings and stuff like that.
Well, even her career too. I mean, farming is generally a male-dominated thing. I mean, I definitely see what you're saying, but I mean, I think she's more masculine. Maybe not all the way on the end of the spectrum, but I mean, it's quite a spectrum.
And she's not ready to get dirty.
That's what was you
I think that Applejack's a perfect, like not perfect, but like in the middle, like not just between being very feminine and being more on like the what they would call the masculine side of it. I think that's in the middle. I don't think that it's something. I think there are girls who are feminine. There are girls who are like things that are considered be feminine. But I think Applejack would be placed in the perfect middle of it.
Yeah.
Like I think that makes most sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can split the difference here and slide it over.
Yeah.
One of the main questions I'd like to ask about this activity is it what we actually think, or are we playing off of the stereotypes that we think might have been
I think it's also
Yeah. Oh yeah, gender is
the only thing that makes one masculine or feminine is your anatomy. So anytime you're looking at a spectrum like that, you're looking at what society expects rather than, because being masculine is, you know, simply a matter of
These are
what's
definitely sort of
fully
socially constructed. These are ideas that our society has about what each of the genders are about.
Yeah, what they're supposed to do,
Right.
what that would be. And then any other things?
Pinkie Pie, I feel like because she expresses her emotions and she wears them so readily on her sleeve, pushes her definitely towards the feminine spectrum. Because usually if a male were to be seen as so exuberant and so like carefree and uplifted and happy, it's not usually something that's stereotypically masculine or male.
Yeah.
They're usually more stoic, quieter,
Yeah.
or their expressions are not usually happy. That's just my personal
There, so we might want to be careful. But yeah, I mean, okay, go ahead.
And the reason I placed Fluttershy even more towards the feminine end and rarity, and when people first watch the show, it's like, oh, it's rarity. She likes making clothes and she hates dirty things. But then when you look at Fluttershy, you see that her entire career is based upon being amongst them.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And you definitely see that when she's interacting with Angel, that it's very much a sort of mother and bratty little kid.
She's also very pure and shy.
Yeah.
And that's something we tend to think of more with this feminine and masculine, which is bold and assertive. But when you get between her and someone she cares about, she will tear your head off.
Well, one of the things that you can just sort of see looking at this is that we have all of these female sex characters who have a variety of gender expressions, which is a very nice thing to have, especially in a show aimed at little kids, so that we can reach this idea that it's okay to fall in different areas along the spectrum.
And it's never viewed that like being one way or the other is negative. Like it's always viewed in positive ways, which is great.
Yeah, nobody really challenges Rainbow Dash for being masculine. They just sort of roll with it.
Yeah. And then now we're gonna mix it up with adding male characters. And how does adding male characters change how people, how you would gender, put them along the gender spectrum. So if people want to come up again, and you can also, if you didn't grab a sticker, grab one.
So we have shining armor, spike, and big
And big fan.
Be like, smile. He's kind of a feeler, but he's very, like, but yet he does, but he is very traditional.
Yeah, so let everybody see where this is at and raise these questions. So we've got Spike over here, a little bit more on the feminine side, and then over here, and then we've got Big Mac and Shine. Now my question is shining armor really more masculine than rainbow?
I was just about to come up. Oh, I was actually gonna put in sweet Applejack.
Yeah, they can go for it.
I mean, that's like being really great.
But he's the stereotypical hero in that aspect.
Yeah, but then he's not.
In a different show, he would be the hero, but in My Little Pony, he's the supporting character.
But even then, his whole career is based off of being a soldier, it's being
Masculine,
clearest
right?
definition of masculinity, and he's not even having the pattern in the guard, but his whole duty is around protecting his people. So whereas his hero identity is challenged in you, that he is a protector, he's not. So I actually
On the other hand, Rainbow Dash is basically trying out to be a stunt pilot, which is a pretty sort of...
I think it's the reverse crash of Rainbow Dash, going against like the kind of thinking, critical, more like intellectual things and mentality of shining armor, basically having this
Yeah, the shining armor also kind of plays into the masculine thing, almost the Al Bundy, dumb guy, totally oblivious to what's happening.
I'm totally sorry, Twilight. I totally forgot to tell you that I was getting married.
No, but I really trust this girl here.
Yeah.
Rainbow Dash is my why she is so quick to think and do really random things and he is very calculated.
True. On the other hand, I would also... Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, I think definitely that shining armor is more perfect side. Every time she brings somebody who can't hear like another cage, she's trying to hide it. Whereas shining armor, the whole factor that he saves is merciless because he showed
And plus the emotions that Rainbow Dash tends to display are those sort of like, you know, like extreme confidence, you know, anger, you know, pride, all of those sort of acceptable male expressions.
I think it's one of those things also we don't really see enough. Oh,
That's very
shining
true.
armor to really see the traits from the ring.
Yeah, these characters, Spike is really the only one that can get much of an impression.
Right. Also, remember, the way you express your gender can change situation to situation where you are. So one day shining armor might be more over here, but another times he might be over here. Yeah. So yeah.
Activity time.
And if anybody else wants stickers, there's a couple left.
Nobody's really questioning.
I didn't really like that.
He didn't really like Sparty Pants.
Sparty Pants. That was fun. Okay, so now on to the fandom around My Little Pony. So, an idea that I've seen that has gone around is that MLP is great because men like it, which implies that it wouldn't have been great before because it was for girls, implying that girls are not good. So I've seen this idea around and it's not a very good,
Right.
yeah.
You know, there's this sort of idea that if, you know, a bunch of girls like it, oh, well, you know, that's all well and good. But if guys like it, there must be some, like, you know, sort of hidden quality underneath it that, you know, this attention from male audience members proves that there's something really special here. Yes. where you don't necessarily see that going in the other direction, where you have sort of like, say, female fans of superhero comics or superhero cartoons like Teen Titans, Young Justice, that sort of thing. Their appreciation for it, if it's accepted, we're not even getting into the. What's that? Okay. So yeah, and so that's just sort of taken as a matter of course. The women, of course, the women like it. It's a good show. Oh, the men like it? I guess it must be a good show, type of thing. Sort of reversal of that.
And then the idea that women can't be considered bronies or people who are female-bodied but male identifying, which, I mean, I understand that they're trying to say bro as in brother, but it's sort of cis-sexist. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it causes a lot of problems in that, which, yeah. And then there's sort of the idea of a fake geek girl. So girls who cosplay are only doing it for attention. So it's like you have non-standard like women who are like conventionally attractive. So like women who are larger sometimes, and people will sort of attack them. That like you're a whale, stop cosplaying, blah 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 blah. There was a girl on Facebook and she made a beautiful TARDIS dress, and all the comments were, that cow, blah blah blah. It's awful. Whereas if a woman is normally seen as attractive to society, they're like, she can't really like it, she's just in it for attention, and stuff like that. Okay. And then cosplay does not equal consent. Clothes in general do not equal consent towards anything. I don't know. I've seen people who get harassed in cosplay all the time, and or like creepy pictures, and it's bad. Don't do it. And then more positively, actual love and tolerance for the fandom. I've seen, gosh, there was last year at Trotcon, there was, I believe, a trans woman, and she was talking to me about how accepting the community was for her, and that just like, that's so awesome, and yeah. And then I think the fandom has kind of given a start for society to really help redefine what it means to be masculine. We have so many, guys here who are like, who seem pretty masculine, and then yet they like My Little Pony. So it's like, what does it mean to be masculine? And I really hope that people look at that and really think about it. And here's some of the references. Two really good websites is Geek Feminism and Finally Feminism 101, which are really good starter feminist websites. Sorry. Any questions? No.
Thanks for coming out. If you want to talk about things, I think they want us to move things along here. So if you want to talk about things, we'll probably be hanging out there.
Yeah, and all the art is done by me. I don't have an art panel, but I do have business cards if you want any of my business cards. And there's still stickers left. So.